Good day, ladies and gentle cults. Penny Wrights here, looking through My Little Pony with a fine sharpened quill. So, I've noticed this trend with a lot of Western animations and media where the moment an adult says, "Animation is for children," the range of every type of person will collectively say, "Hold my apple cider."
Oh, that's not so much. So?
And then we'll get a tsunami of amazing titles from Hell of a Boss to Lackadaisy, all for free on YouTube. Which, freedom to do what you want is usually what YouTube is here for, right? Ha ha. Usually. But it's not just indie creators here, it's also happening on streaming sites and TV shows. I remember being a young teen watching Steven Universe with a kid talking about eating ice cream to get his superpowers. I had no idea it would lead me to civil war, uncommon relationship statuses, genocide, toxic relationships, idol worship, and abandonment issues. Now, don't get me wrong, Steven Universe is for older children about middle school range, but no, you can catch some interesting ideas from animations even meant for younger children. I've heard countless things about the new show Bluey, which, let me know if you guys want me to look through that one. But for My Little Pony, there wasn't much to think about in terms of past generations. Ponies are good, everything else is evil, and if you're a pony that's messing around with evil, you might be forgiven. With G4, we get a lot more interesting plots, and I want to point them all out because why not have an existential crisis overthinking on multicolored ponies? So, in no particular order, we're going through the top 10 adult themes of My Little Pony. Because top 10 lists are a thing, and I need whatever happened to my top 10 couples list to happen again. And again, this won't be in any particular order, due to certain things being more relatable than others, and not even everything that I mentioned pertains to my personal life, but I'm sure it relates to somebody. Number 10, disabilities and limitations. Now, this gets touched on a few times in other forms of media. I'm not mentioning anime because most of the time it just makes the main character overpowered, usually at the ripe old age of 80. First one that comes to mind is Clifford the Big Red Dog, where a new friend in the neighborhood is missing one leg and everyone tries to either overhelp or slow down to try and be nice and fair. In the end, they're overthinking for no reason, and the other dog says they're capable of doing just as much regardless.
I can do most things the same as everyone else. I really like doing things for myself.
Sorry, Casey. I know that. Now.
But I do need help sometimes. When I do, Clifford, you're definitely the guy I'm gonna ask. Deal?
Deal.
With My Little Pony, we get Scootaloo, a Pegasus pony with a strong idol worship for Rainbow Dash, and may have wanted to join the Wonderbolts just because it was Rainbow Dash's dream. There have been times that Scoots being unable to fly have really hit hard, including Flight to the Finish and The Fault in Our Cutie Marks. I talked about Scootaloo's backstory and my own theories of why she isn't able to fly, but it never takes away from her determination to reach new heights. With the Washout episode, where she realizes her path is more into extreme sports than flying, I kind of admired her for wanting a goal that wasn't surrounded by Rainbow Dash, and it was something she discovered herself. I don't like the idea that the Washouts were made to be the antagonists just because of Lightning Dust and her issues with Rainbow Dash, but I'm glad it didn't take too much focus off of the struggle Scootaloo had to go through even when Rainbow Dash couldn't make up for it.
Just because I look up to you doesn't mean I have to be you. But based on your definition of what makes some pony great, I have bad news. I'll never be the best of the best or a Wonderbolt because I can't fly. Is that what you wanted to hear?
The Washout episodes was pretty much the last Scootaloo-based episode, and I think it was a good stopping point for her. It was enough to realize she might not fly, and things may stay the same no matter how much we'd want that moment to happen. We'll get it in small doses like being a sea pony in surf and or turf, and do Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep. She's up there for inspirational characters along with Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender. But some of these moments still pierce the heart that I'm sure would make any tears come if they'd seen this as a kid. Number 9. Many Shades of Redemption. I know this isn't as unique of a topic. Anime has a great habit of taking villains, and through one conversation, they automatically become good. Or tolerable. But for here, it's always handled pretty decently. Well, almost all of them. Yeah, I'm not a fan of villains being zapped to good just for plot convenience, but for other villains, we have someone who hasn't changed their chaotic personality, but doesn't use it against others. Someone who can realize the mistakes they've made, even if they still don't fully understand what you should do and shouldn't do socially. The obnoxious frenemy who is reformed but still slightly disliked. And of course, the one who has to actually want to change afterwards but still looked at with disdain regardless of their efforts. Not even the Humane Five fully forgave Sunset and Rainbow Rocks and even constantly brought up her mistakes.
Now that we're all back together, we can use that magic on the sirens, just like when we were able to use it on Sunset Shimmer when she turned into that horrifyingly awful winged monster! No offense.
None taken.
No, you don't know what it's like when nothing feels alright. You don't know what it's like to be like me.
For Discord, it's hard to actually tell whether or not he's that forgiving by the main six, but closest moment was probably with Discord getting along with Spike and Big Mac in Dungeons and Discord. For others, he's more of that asshole friend that gets along with one of your close friends, so you kind of have to put up with them. With quick antagonists like Lightning Dust and Trixie, we're aware they're not evil, but still kind of toxic and not that nice unless it's their own people they're looking out for. Again, I tolerate Trixie, but only when we have Starlight to balance her out. Other quick antagonists like Diamond Tiara, Garble, Gilda get some form of small redemption in the form of stop being a crappy person, and then disappear altogether. For some reason, it's the fan favorite characters where they're not automatically forgiven, but we have to grow to forgive them, just as other characters have to in the process. Well, there is one that took a while for people to get behind, and luckily she's next on our list. Number 8. Starlight the Cult Leader. No, really. How did the writers get away with this imagery? Uniformed hair and wardrobe. Marching song about equality similar to military training chants. Conditioning and holding rooms. I don't deny getting a laugh out of these moments that look suspiciously like something from Korea, but just the idea of turning the idea of equality into something corrupted and twisted and dumbing down your special skills to fit in and conform was something I wasn't expecting from a children's show.
If you want to be one of the nonconformists, all you have to do is dress just like us and listen to the same music we do.
What's also interesting about this is the fact that there's not much to tell whether or not Starlight was going to go through with this indoctrination with more and more ponies. From how it looked even in the first episode in Season 5, that village was far out in the middle of nowhere and you could have been lost in the world to just find it and listen to their teachings. But without the map, these ponies would have still been living their lives under these teachings without much change to the world. It's a cult! There might be punishment in the form of re-educating, but nothing physically harmful. And just to make sure that I wouldn't anger anybody, I did take the liberty of looking up some interesting information about cult leaders.
"14 traits of a cult leader." 1. Narcissistic.
The staff is a piece of wood I found in the desert. It's my magic that makes all this possible.
2. Charismatic.
We're happy to have any pony who wants to experience true friendship for the first time.
3. Dominant.
No one is superior, and no one shakes in fear.
4. Demand obedience.
In this, there is peace. Exceptionalism is a lie. Free yourself from your cutie mark. Choose a quality as your special talent.
5. Claim to have supernatural powers.
And here is the Staff of Sameness. It was one of the great Mage Meadowbrook's 9 enchanted items.
6. Arrogant and boastful.
Well, now you can spend the rest of your lives here with us. And we'll teach you just how much better life can be without your cutie marks.
7. Sociopaths.
I love a good conversation.
Yeah, you did something! Whoa! What's happening? I feel really weird. I'm talking so much. Ah! Make it stop!
8. Delusional.
You lied to us!
So what? Everything else I said is true. The only way to be happy is if we're all equal.
9. Persuasive.
When we were sent to this village, we assumed it was to help in some way. But, well, it doesn't seem like you need any help.
Have you considered perhaps that you might have been sent here so we could help you?
10. Controlling.
I just wanted to remember what it was like.
And no thought to the pain you'd cause your friends. Such selfishness.
11. Exploitative.
I'm sorry, Starlight. I'm sorry, every pony. I've seen the error of my ways. I never want to look at my cutie mark again.
It seems there's cause for celebration after all.
12. Underdogs.
And just like that, my friend was gone. His family recognized his magical talent and sent him off to Canterlot. I never saw him again.
Well, why not?
Because of his cutie mark! He got his, and I didn't. He moved on, and I didn't! I stayed here and never made another friend because I was too afraid another cutie mark would take them away too!
13. Visionaries.
When the rest of Equestria sees that a princess gave up her cutie mark to join us, they'll finally understand what we're trying to accomplish.
14. Don't take criticisms.
Every pony has unique talents and gifts. And when we share them with each other, that's how we—
Quiet!
Yeah, that last one gets me every time. Number 7. Death and loss of family members. Can we say it now? We went through G4.5. We're in G5 with more media coming out for it. Are we finally going to admit that Applejack's parents are not of this world anymore? I'm not sure why we made death such a quiet thing in My Little Pony, especially when a lot of deaths to the villain have been... What was the rating of this show again? So with how fast they are at dispatching villains, you would think death would just be a natural occurrence, right? But it took all the way to the perfect pair where we get one of the fandom's biggest questions asked about Applejack's parents. Still an amazing episode and shows that even if it's not talked about as much, the Apple kids still thought about their parents to even have Big Mac speaking up about hearing more stories about his father.
Would it be okay if we stop by again sometime to hear more stories?
I'd like that very much.
There's even touches of subtlety with the very last episode where we see Applejack wearing Granny Smith's scarf. Show, why do you have to hurt me so much? It was even a clever idea to discuss the stages of grief in the form of Tank going into hibernation and Rainbow Dash not agreeing with nature. Of course, it took bringing Winter early to cause a big mess with Ponyville to come to the rightful accepted conclusion, but it happens. Not really, but we can say it happened. Not to mention the near-death or actual possible death that happened with Twilight and Mudbriar at the hands of a cockatrice. I mean, we at least turned them back from stone, and Discord was set in stone for centuries before waking up on his own, but are we sure these three are actually alive in limbo or something? And probably one of the biggest that actually blew me away was with Rockhoof from Rockhoof in a Hard Place, where the modern times have ancient hero and pillar Rockhoof in a troubling position. With his comrades adjusting to the new world, he feels uneasy, unfulfilled, and left behind, and decides to ask Twilight to turn him to stone.
Why would you want to be turned into stone?
Because I'm a relic of a bygone age. I belong in a museum. Safe, preserved, untouched. I don't belong in this time. It's up to you to make that right.
If we really think of petrification as a type of forever slumber or death, this was the equivalent of asking someone to pull their plug. I won't deny my heart was kind of shaken by this. Maybe because I know people like this who don't know their place in the world and want to be of use to others, but can't figure it out quite yet. Maybe even feeling like you've been left behind in the times. It took Yuna to realize he's not alone in his old ways and can be useful as a keeper of old tales, maybe similar to a historian. Maybe tales that'll be of use in taking care of other problems one day, or with Yuna to make her feel more welcome to pony kind, just because she's bigger and likes to smash things up like Rockhoof does. I'm glad that they have that special connection, and to realize that someone who's so a part of history still has a place in modern times, no matter how many classrooms get smashed up. Number 6. Self-harm and depression. Okay, this is going to be a heavy one, so all respect to those who have gone through these feelings and may still be going through them now. I mean, no disrespect, this is only for information. This pertains specifically to Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep, an episode about Luna creating the Tantabus nightmare monster to punish herself as Nightmare Moon. I've talked about this a little bit in my video on Luna and how it was a better depiction in the comics of the Tantabus and depression than it was in this episode. Yeah, there were some questionable things about the episode and whether or not Luna took breaks between her self-torment to monitor the CMC or deal with her cutie mark with her sister in a royal problem, but this is still a very common and very serious issue for her. Between the time of Luna's reform, integration with her subjects, and protecting Equestria when she can, just the idea that she's practically hates herself for her past mistakes is something very relatable and real to have in a children's cartoon. We can feel underappreciated to the point of jealousy and over-apologetic to the point of self-sabotage in our progress. I won't harp too much on it since I've talked about this in depth with my Luna video, and seeing as she's my favorite princess, I can at least admire her strength for asking for help when she really needs it, even in a not-so-great episode. Especially when we had others reformed either brush off their past misdeeds to the point of joking,
That's amazing! A perfect copy!
I learned the spell years ago when I needed to make copies of a certain manifesto.
Or being unapologetic for what you did, but seeing there's a better way to be yourself and still have friends as long as you're not destroying the entire world.
Have an absolutely fabulous voyage.
Discord.
Well, it's not my fault the new train route leads into an active volcano. Guess you'll have to stay.
Number 5. Prejudice and racism. Oh, what a time to be bringing up this topic. Sadly, things in our reality cannot be fixed as fast as it was with Chancellor Naysay. The idea that only ponies would understand the power of friendship compared to other species in the show did throw me off when meeting this love child of Dr. Strange and Professor Snape.
Classes won't start at all. The EEA has spoken, and none shall pass. You shall not pass!
But then I have to think about all the times we've met a different species prior to this episode. Gilda being a bully and kind of looking down on other ponies from Griffin the Brush-Off, the rude dragon from Dragon Shy, and the obnoxious teenage dragons from Dragon Quest, the aggressive yaks ready to start a war and party pooped, not to mention whatever baddies we've had as villains, like the changelings. It doesn't help that we've had bad first-time experiences with a lot of species, and it took characters like Yuna, Ember, Gabby, and Thorax to kind of shift the conversation. Technically, the first time we see this kind of prejudice is with Zecora and Bridal Gossip.
She's mysterious, sinister, and spooky. And that wicked enchantress Zecora lives there doing her evil stuff. Oh, she's so evil, I even wrote a song about her. Here we go. She's an evil enchantress. She does evil dances. And if you look deep in her eyes, she'll put you in trances. Then what will she do? She'll mix up an evil brew. Then she'll gobble you up in a big tasty stew. So watch out!
Wow, catchy.
It's a work in progress.
Funny thing is, we've never heard where any of these rumors came from. In the other cases, we've at least been introduced to different species, tried to be their friends, and then they turn out to be a jerk. But for Zecora, nothing like that was ever the case. It seemed even she was nervous about what people thought of her since she used to wear a cloak when going to Ponyville, and later stopped wearing one after the episode. It's interesting to even think our main characters would have yielded to such narrow-minded thinking. Not to say our main characters can't screw up, but it does take some fast but effective effort to change minds. From Times Are A-Changing to Gauntlet of Fire, to The Lost Treasure of Griffinstone, all it usually takes is an open conversation. Or in Neisei's case, a half-pint Shirley Temple knockoff with a twisted sense of power over friendship. Number 4. Too much of a good thing. Okay, I might have a bias for things like this, especially for this type of thing in younger children's shows. You know, how a lot of toddler and preschooler shows, they'll tell you to always be something. Always be kind. Always share. Always tell the truth. Yeah, my favorite episodes are when those things go wrong. With Rarity, it was with Rarity Takes Manhattan, when she overshares a sample of her originally made fabric to the competition, Suri Polmer, and has her entire line based off of it. It shouldn't ruin someone's whole idea of being generous and to give if you have it. That gray line is very blurred between being too generous or not showing your whole hand at poker.
You stole my fabric!
I didn't steal it, okay? You gave it to me, remember?
I gave you the fabric for accents, not for your whole line. How could this happen?
Oh, sweetie, don't blame yourself. It takes some small-town fillies a while to learn it's every pony for herself in the big city, okay?
An example of when keeping it real goes wrong.
For Fluttershy, it happened with It Ain't Easy Being Breezy, where Fluttershy helps the small and fragile creatures, the Breezies, after a mishap when they were going home. She had to learn there's such a thing as being too nice to the point of enabling lazy behavior. Which is funny since this episode happened before meeting Zephyr Breeze, Fluttershy's brother with not much direction in life and willing to mooch off his parents. Good for you for learning, Fluttershy. Last episode is Applejack with Honest Apple, one of my personal favorites in terms of having too much of a good thing. With Applejack, her honesty turned into being too blunt and disrespectful when judging something that's not really in her comfort zone.
Ooh, both good choices.
No! There is no choice! They're the exact same belt! This is so silly! Fashion is ridiculous! You don't mean that? I do. I'm sorry, but that's my honest opinion.
The idea of honesty being turned into something sour like this is great writing, because it should be something that's a common thing for people to do. And how they handled the episode was amazing, with Applejack not fully understanding fashion, but respects their dedication and love for the art.
So, you don't think fashion is ridiculous? Well, I still don't understand it, but I appreciate how much it means to y'all, and how much hard work you put into it.
Not condescending, and not just admitting she's wrong. It's an adult topic that adults really don't know how to do. At all. Number 3. Anxiety at any age. We've seen anxiety explored in so many ways throughout this show, whether it be competition nerves, performance anxiety, or about what you'll do when you grow up. Fluttershy was constantly being the focus of a literal bundle of nerves in most confrontations, and that's kind of a trait she had to get over longer than Rainbow Dash and the CMC. Not only was Apple Bloom worried about ever getting her cutie mark, but also if it would still be in the family or if she'd even have it regardless of being good at what she did. Not to mention if her friends would leave if she ever got hers first, or if they got theirs first and she would be left of the cutie mark crusaders. We also get more complicated anxiety about cutie marks keeping from doing other things and missing out on doing activities and hobbies you liked before getting it.
Kettlecorn, you covered your cutie mark? I'm blank flank again, keeping my options open. I'm more than haikus. You just haikued right then!
Number 2, harassing creators. Oh boy, am I gonna be standing on some toes today. With a lot of media that becomes popular comes a lot of demand to keep up with quality. One bad episode can mean the show fails or the effects of that episode trickling down to other episodes to the point of a bad ending. My Little Pony doesn't stray from those moments. In the episode Fame and Misfortune, due to the popularity of the Friendship Journal, which was published, it caused the townfolk to critique and question the things in that book as if it was a piece of fiction. I may go off track with this, but hear me out. When I first saw the episode, I didn't really know how to react. With this many characters involved and callbacks to previous moments with each of the main 6, it felt like this episode was trying to tell me something more. And then it hit me. Where Slice of Life was a love letter to the fans, Fame and Misfortune was a restraining order against them. It's no surprise when you look at the parallels. The main 6 are the writers and the creators. The journal, the thing they created, is My Little Pony the show. And everyone else are the fans. But not just fans, adult fans. The ones that pay close attention to the details and content of the book to the point of missing the bigger picture of each story. This feels like a case between the writers and the adult fans, specifically the analytical communities. And it's no surprise at the end of the episode, the ones who really understood the book's purpose was the children having a fight in the beginning of the episode. Look, as an analyst myself, it felt kind of like an insult to the adult fans who blew this franchise sky high with praise and excitement. Fun and developed characters, amazing action, heartfelt moments, laughs, tears, the works. I like being an adult and fully appreciating this children's show, but showing just the analytical or simple side to the fans just felt like a stomp on the foot. And don't get me wrong, I understand being a writer or creator and having people slam what you created, or even receiving harsh and threatening emails because of it. It felt like the episode that wasn't fair to both sides, and in the end of the episode, it kind of just stops. There wasn't a way of making things better, just making things less complicated. In the end, try not to overthink and give the creators and writers some slack, while hopefully the writers take notice of what the fans really want. Number 1, divorce. This might not be a big topic for most, but in media, it's also pretty apparent, but also very hush-hush. This is one of my favorite topics to see in media because it affects children in many different ways as well as the parents. But the trick is seeing how it's used in children's media to make a child understand what they're going through. Braceface, Pepper Ann, The Weekenders all touch on the ideas of divorce through the child's perspective and their relationship with the parent they live with, or both parents. My favorite being As Told by Ginger, where Ginger wants her father to stay in the picture for big family events, while her younger brother Carl would rather treat him as a stranger. This happens with siblings with a big age difference, since Ginger probably remembers more about spending time with their father than Carl would. In My Little Pony's case, it takes place in Surf and or Turf, where Terramar needs help from the CMC to find out if he should live in the water with his mother or in the Hippogriff village on land with his father. The episode plays a lot with choosing, even causing Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle to make a stand for their choices. Scootaloo liked the idea of living in water since it's the closest thing to mimicking the weightless of flight, while Sweetie Belle appreciates the vast fields, beautiful scenery, and harmonizing hills. By the way, I had to research this just because I thought it was funny. Terra is Latin for earth, and Mar is Latin for sea. Just thought you should know how this episode is going to end. And yes, in the end, Terramar talks to both parents, reach an understanding, and basically ends up looking like the Little Mermaid sequel, Return to the Sea, where the sea ponies and hippogriffs join together for their festival, and Terramar can live on both land and sea. The second time we encounter this situation is Common Grounds, with Quibblepants coming into a pre-existing family and trying to bond with his girlfriend's daughter. Big props for casting Patton Oswalt's actual family for this episode. Quibblepants was going through what a lot of adults do, as well as children go through. Getting to know a new person who will be important in their lives from now on. I love the play on the differences Quibblepants has with Wind Spirit, where she's more into the sport of buckball and he's a nerd that's more into role-playing games and comic books. Nerd! Even adding that her father before was the athletic type adds to the anxiety of possibly being a new parent in a pre-existing family. It was definitely hard to watch him trying to be athletic, and Rainbow Dash sometimes not being able to read a room did not help.
Rainbow Dash, I'd like you to meet Clear Sky, the most amazing pony I've ever met.
You've met Daring Do, so that's probably an exaggeration. No offense.
She's trying. Even Clear Skies tried telling Quibblepants not to force the bonding. In the end, it took sitting down with Wind Spirit to let her know that she can still have love for her father and Quibblepants and even bond over the game.
I don't care how many ponies care about him. They're not gonna make me forget about Dad.
Oh, sweetheart, I know Quibble's trying too hard, but he doesn't want you to stop loving your dad. He just wants you to like him.
I'm sorry I was trying so hard to convince you otherwise. I just really wanted us to get along, but I guess it backfired. Do you think we could start over? Maybe we could watch some of the tournament together and you could teach me some sports stuff?
In a lot of cases for divorced children in terms of media, the kids usually go with one parent completely, with barely any info on the other parent. I like how this idea shows that it's okay to have two separate homes with your parents, as well as new beginnings with other families. It's completely normal and can be a very common thing. There's no malice or issue between the parents, they just had different ideas where they wanted to live, and even give their son the option to choose whichever made him happy.
But you're more than just where you're from or who you live with. We love you because you're you, no matter where you choose to be.
You don't have to decide. You can keep doing what you've been doing, going back and forth.
And enjoying both places.
And even with Quibblepants, as much as he was trying to make a fool out of himself, he does still love both Clear Skies and Wind Spirit, even if he's not completely in the family just yet, but still welcome with open arms. I give so many props to the writers who take such a topic and make it easier to digest for a younger audience. It shows a lot of careful consideration for anyone who's ever been in a similar situation. It's ideal to say that things can be solved easily, but it's always good to have that voice out there. And those are my top 10 adult themes for My Little Pony. If there's any I missed, let me know in the comments because I love watching this stuff and I like talking about it as much as I can. I hope media can take bigger steps in animation, and whether it continues to be seen as a child preference, it doesn't mean it doesn't have anything for all ages. I'm Penny Wrights, and what other theme? I should really see about safety blockers for you.